Here we have Robert Spencer warns Congress on Sharia's stealth invasion to the United States and to Europe. But he doesn't talk about Europe. He's talking about here. So here we go. You guys need to educate yourself about Sharia law. Let's go.
Thank you. The U.S. Constitution and Sharia are incompatible, and the conflict between the two legal systems will grow as Sharia adherents increase in number in the West. This fact has been obscured by misinformation about what Sharia actually is. When the city of Keller, Texas, scrapped an anti-Sharia resolution in January 2026, the Hamas-linked Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, stated that like canon law for Catholics and halakha for Orthodox Jews, Sharia refers to the rules that Muslims follow, including praying 5 times a day, fasting in Ramadan, giving in charity, and following the laws of the land in which they live. If that were really all that Sharia were about, no reasonable person would have any problem with it. CAIR doesn't mention, however, that Sharia is inherently political, supremacist, expansionist, and violent. Far from being the Islamophobic.
The problem too with Sharia law in Islam and the Muslims, how they worship it, it's part of their government. Their religion is their government. They base it all on there. Now, what do Christians do? We based a lot of the 10 Commandments on our laws. Thou shalt not kill. You shouldn't steal. You shouldn't commit adultery. Where we've been bad about that because we've had lax laws on adultery. Now, and then what? Marriage. So now you could just irreconcilable differences anyway. It's been a mess for America. But with Sharia law, guys, it's embedded. The religion itself, all of it is embedded in their governance, how they rule. Keep that in mind.
Phobic conspiracy theories of CAIR's imagining, these are facts that Muslim authorities on Sharia openly attest. Reliance of the Traveler, Umdat as-Salik, is a classic manual of Islamic sacred law, that is Sharia. In 1990, Dr. Taha Jabir Alawani, president of the International Institute of Islamic Thought, as well as president of the Fiqh Council of North America, stated that this Sharia manual was useful as a textbook for teaching Islamic jurisprudence. The most prestigious institution of Islamic learning in the world, Al-Azhar in Cairo, stated in 1991 that the same manual of Sharia conforms to the practice and faith of the Orthodox Sunni community. We read in this same guide to Sharia that jihad means war against non-Muslims, and that it is a communal obligation upon the Muslim community. The object of this war is to establish the hegemony of Sharia over the conquered land.
Yes, over the conquered land. So here we have David Wood. He also has a channel on YouTube, and it's a Apologetics Roadshow. So Dr. David Wood, you can find him on X, and you need to check it out. So he's replying here to Abdullah Sola 9, and apparently he's retweeting. We're still going to call it tweet to something Abdullah had posted, and Abdullah posted a picture. I guess it was a video of Israeli soldiers burning Qurans. Okay. So David responds because the guy's upset. Like, why they disrespected Muhammad and be respecting our religion because we don't do that to nobody else's religion. We don't do that. No, we respect other religions. So David says, why would they burn a book that calls Jews the worst of creatures? And this is in Sunni, let me get this at Sunni 98 and Sunni 99. Okay, that's where you can find these. Part 13, see that? So you could go look it up. Here it is in, I guess that's in Arabic, and then this is the translation. So I'm just not throwing things out, but David posted this. He's so good at this stuff. It says, verily, those who disbelieve in the religion of Islam, the Quran and Prophet Muhammad, from among the people of the scripture, Jews and Christians, and Allah Muskana, I'm not sure who that is, will abide in the fire in hell. They are the worst of creatures. They're the worst. The here we hear down here. Verily, those who believe in the oneness of Allah and in his messenger Muhammad, including all obligations ordered by Islam, and do righteous good deeds, they are the best of creatures. Now keep in mind that I'm not sure if it's in the Sunni or if one of the hadiths or if this is in the Quran, but from David Wood and them, and from Wes Huff himself, Wes Huff, y'all don't know who he is, go Google him, Wes Huff. He's an authority on this as well, like David and the rest of them. So, in either the Hadith, the Quran, or the Sunni, I'm not sure which one it is, so forgive me, you could just go Google it, but in one of those, it says that Allah is saying, well, Christians need to go by the book. They call the Gospels, they call the Bible the book in their Quran or whatever. And then they tell the Jews have to abide by the Torah. They said they have their laws. They got to abide by that. So if Christians, Allah's telling Christians to abide by their book. So if we do that, if we listen to what their Allah is telling us to do, then the Quran is false. Islam is false because they're telling us to abide by the gospel, the book. And what is the book? The book says Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior. He's God. He's part of the Trinity. He came from a virgin birth. He was killed on the cross. He rose again. He's going to return. The Quran mentions, I think the book mentions Jesus like 25 times or more, way more than they mention Muhammad. But they don't believe Jesus is the Messiah, but we do. But they're also, Allah is telling us, the Christians, to abide by our book. So our book tells us Islam is false. There you have it. That's very fascinating. Hopefully I explained that right. I'm still in my learning stage, and trust me, the learning never stops.
Hegemony of Sharia over the conquered land. For non-Muslims, this means an institutionalized, highly codified second-class status that denies them basic rights. Non-Muslims living under Sharia must pay the non-Muslim poll tax, jizya, that is specified in the Quran, verse 929. This religion-based tax is designed to indicate, as the renowned Islamic scholar Ibn Kathir explained, that the non-Muslims who are paying it are disgraced, humiliated, and belittled. The non-Muslims in this state of disgrace and humiliation are not allowed to build new houses of worship or repair old ones, so their communities are in a perpetual state of decline. They are forbidden to make any public display of their religion. They're relegated to the most menial jobs in society, for they are forbidden to hold authority over Muslims. If they say anything critical about Islam, Muhammad, or the Quran, they're liable to be put to death. Mm-hmm. From all this, it is clear that Sharia is not simply Muslim personal religious law. On the contrary, Sharia-based legal and civic institutions are contrary to America's founding principles and violate federal law and the Constitution in numerous particulars. The death penalty for mentioning what Reliance of the Traveler terms as something impermissible about Allah, the Prophet, or Islam, that is blasphemy, is directly at variance with First Amendment freedom of speech protections. The Islamic imperative to establish the hegemony of Sharia as the law of the land, as in today in the Islamic Republic of Iran, Afghanistan, and elsewhere, is obviously at variance with the First Amendment principle of non-establishment of a religion.
So if they want Sharia law, then that means you can't say jack about Muhammad. You can't be calling him a pedo, which he is. Right? Because he marries Alicia at 6, he consummates the marriage at 9. He's a big-time pedo. There's all kinds of problems with the Quran. Don't take my word for it. Go start studying this. It contradicts himself all over the place. And I just told you how it contradicts, where Allah's telling Christians, you got your book. You need to abide by the book, and that's the word of Allah. Well, so we go abide by the book, and guess what? We have to reject the Quran and Muhammad, because our book says Jesus Christ is the Messiah. But anyway, y'all need to take that in consideration. They take this stuff seriously. This is why their countries are a crap hole.
Even in its personal aspects, Sharia does contradict U.S. law. The Quran states that a man should beat a woman from whom he fears disobedience. That's chapter 4, verse 34. Domestic violence is a crime in U.S. law, but it is not a crime under Sharia. And we have the example of what happened in Britain. Britain began establishing Sharia courts several years ago with the understanding that cases that came under the purview of British criminal law would be referred to the British criminal courts. Instead, the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal on its website urged the Crown Prosecution Service to reconsider bringing criminal charges against Muslim men who'd been accused of domestic violence. And as this is in the Quran, the same thing would happen here. As Sharia is considered divine law, those Muslims who adhere to it always consider that it takes precedence over the laws of the land. Moreover, emigration to a new land to bring Sharia to it is also an Islamic imperative. The Quran in chapter 4, verse 100 promises a reward from Allah to those who immigrate for the sake of Allah, which means for the purpose of bringing Sharia to a non-Muslim land. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
And that's exactly right. This is what they want. This is what they want. And then also you can go look up, I don't know if it's in the Sunni or if it's in one of the, if it's in the Quran. And they also have, I don't know if the Dawa guys are saying it and this kind of stuff, but they have to abide by all of this. They can lie to you. It's okay. Allah said it's okay. What God tells you it's okay to lie? Well, their God does. Their Allah says it's okay. If you're in fear, you can lie. And then also you can lie because they got to further their agenda. They got to go in and then they got to take over. They're going to take over the country. So they got to play nice and all of this stuff. So they're slowly implementing this stuff. Look at what all the crap they're getting away with in Europe, where he said they've already set up some Sharia courts in their little Muslim communities, which it's not supposed to supersede the law of the land. So obviously we already know it's going to supersede it because it is a draft contract of the Constitution of the United States. There's no way. But yet they're doing this stuff in Texas, guys, and you know darn well they're doing it in Dearborn, Michigan. Before we jump into some more of all of that business, this is a little follow-up from, I did in a show yesterday or the day before, this bill impacts ability. This person says this bill impacts my ability to be with kids. So this has to do with that law they're wanting to pass. But I wanted to give you a little more detail. This highlights a drag queen's testimony against Texas Senate Bill 18. I didn't know what the bill was called. Which seeks to withhold state funding from libraries hosting drag events for minors by emphasizing this is saying her, admission that the bill would limit his interactions with children. So even Grok is calling him by a pronoun. The tax video, February 25, Texas Senate hearing. Performer Bridget Bandit defends his history of youth work. And trust me, I am not going to allow them to change my speech. And I've caught myself flowing with it, and I've got to stop. Including drag queen story times, arguing the bill discriminates based on appearance rather than intent. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. All right, here comes the freak show.
Hello, my name is Bridget Bandit, and I'm speaking in opposition to SB 18. I'm a born and raised Texan and full-time drag queen. Previously, I've worked with children throughout my life as a swim instructor, teaching summer art camps, hosting children's birthday parties, and volunteering in my church as a youth group leader.
Church?
Today, I occasionally host drag...
Church as a youth leader? Good Lord. And why are these kids in here? Look at this makeup. I would think it would freak a kid out.
Drag queen story times. These kinds of events don't differ much from the kind of work I did before, yet this bill would impact my ability to work with children simply based on a subjective and ill-defined expectation of how I should look. Hello, my name...
Okay, so this is exactly what the bill wants to do because you need to stay away from kids. Good Lord. There you have it. So that's a follow-up. That's some more drag queens coming out of the woodwork, wanting them not to pass this bill so they can go in and dress like that in front of small children. All right, we got to break down a Rubio speech in Munich on February 14th, which, if you haven't seen it, you need to see it. It's incredible. It was awesome. I thought this is relevant because what he's saying to these people in Munich. Okay, so here's just a slight bit of a breakdown of that speech because we don't have time to do the whole speech, but I got Grok to give me a breakdown. Marco Rubio is serving as U.S. Senator, Secretary of State. My bad. Marco Rubio, serving as U.S. Secretary of State. Let's get it together, Rochelle. Delivered a speech at the Munich Security Conference that emphasized renewing the transatlantic alliance between the United States and Europe, framed against the historical backdrop of the conference's origins in 1963 during the Cold War. Rubio argued for a shared Western civilization rooted in history. Now, why would he say that? So this is rooted in history. So where are we at? Rooted in history. I don't want to make sure I don't lose my place. So I was reading something last night, and it brought to my attention, which I didn't really even have a thought because, I'm not a genius. They were talking about if a country loses its history, its rich history, it's then the new people coming along, the young people, they lose an identity. They need an identity. Like we have so much rich history. We have the Revolutionary War. We fought the greatest military force on the planet and won. And we have all this rich history from prior to that, the settlers coming over here on devastating circumstances. They had to come over here with nothing and build a society. That is crazy, right? It's amazing. So you have the Pilgrims up until we fought the greatest military force on the planet and win our independence. We have all this rich heritage and we're patriotic. And guess what? Now we don't. Look at what's happening. You got kids in high schools, middle schools, elementary schools that these woke teachers, these satanic people coming out. You had the drag queen we just saw coming out wanting to infect your children's minds because they're not teaching history. These kids have nothing to grab onto, to have rich history to give to what? To be patriotic, to have heritage, to have roots. To have roots. To have roots in history, Christian faith, culture, and heritage. He critiqued post-Cold War policies as delusional and harmful, calling for collective action to address deindustrialization, energy dependence, and mass migration. What's he saying here? An overall reliance in international institutions. That means this all happened at the same time. I don't know. Nobody's talking about that. I haven't heard anybody mention that. Is that all of this we've had migration, okay? We've had people coming into the country, right? Obama and Clinton have deported way more people than Trump so far. Not a peep. But then we had this tsunami come in during Biden. Tsunami that's transforming us. Massive migration. Plus, we've had past presidents for the past 30 years have so much government regulation that we've had deindustrialization. I can't even talk. Deindustrialization. We've had companies leave the country because of regulations. It's crushing us. I'm amazed that we are still surviving, even after all the Somalian theft and all the theft that's going on in the United States. Energy dependency and mass migration. Well, they wanted us to stop using fossil fuels. They wanted us to keep using, they wanted us to go to solar panel, wind turbines. Russia and China are doing that. Guess what China's doing? China's building the turbines and then sell to us because we're retarded. Because Biden and them were retarded. Obama was retarded. And so guess what? China doesn't have not one wind turbine plant going to generate energy. And overall, reliance is on international institutions. So we don't need to be relying on international institutions. We are not to be global. The tone was optimistic about partnership under President Trump, positioning the U.S. as urging European to strengthen itself for mature benefits rather than seeking separation. The speech received applause for lines affirming culture ties and ended with a version of revitalization of West rejecting decline. So what? Basically, he's saying, and we're going to keep going further with this. Is like they need to recognize their country is going to be. They're not even going to be recognizing their heritage, their country. That's not going to be their country anymore. It's going to be a Muslim country. Historical context and Cold War victory introduction. Rubio opened by recalling the 1963 MCA amid Soviet threats and the Cuban Missile Crisis, highlighting how U.S.-European unity defeated communism and rebuilt the continent. Yeah, I think even during World War II, Europe was devastated. Europe was devastated, and they had to rebuild. He contrasted with this with a post from 1889, Euphoria, leading to the false belief in an end of history where liberal democracy and borderless trade would prevail without national interests. That's what they want. They want a world with no borders. They want a world with no borders. Critique of past policies. He identified shared mistakes, unfettered free trade leading to deindustrialized job losses, and supply chain vulnerabilities to rivals, outsourcing sovereignty to international bodies while neglecting defense, soft imposed energy restrictions for climate cult appeasement, giving leverage to competitors. It's like it was an assault on all the Western civilization on the planet. Christian Western civilization. Opening borders to mass migration, threatening societal coercion and culture. Rubio framed these as costly delusions, ignoring human nature and history, urging a renewal and restoration under Trump and preferably with Europe's partner. Basically saying, Europe, you're not going to be Europe anymore. And we just read what Robert Spencer was talking about, the Sharia law and what they want to do. Is that what y'all want? If that's what y'all want. Because all these people that are coming into this country, guess who they worship? Allah from the Quran. The Somalians, the Haitians, it's always the same map. Go look at that map. Probably, I know Nigeria, there are some Christians, pockets of Christians, and guess who they're getting killed by? They're getting killed by Islamists. Shared Western civilization and bonds. Rubio stressed deep U.S.-European connections, ancestry, language, and faith, mentioning Christianity multiple times, and cultural icons like Mozart and Shakespeare and cathedrals. Who built all these? Who built the cathedrals? Who built these nations to be great? They were white Christians. And we are under assault. We are under assault. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't. If we lose this battle, I don't think we're going to see flying cars in the future. Maybe we would have already been seeing flying cars if we haven't imported all of these low IQ third world who have drained trillions of dollars out of us. And all the money we have been sending them for decades. It's insane. It's insane. Maybe we would have we'd have a way better society if we took care of our own first. He argued the U.S. cares about Europe's strength because their fates are intertwined, citing wars as reminders. Defense isn't just about spending, but protecting a way of life and national pride. What is he saying? He's saying y'all are going to lose your national identity if you don't cut it out. You're going to lose it. You're not going to have your identity. It's going to be another country's identity. It's going to be something you don't even can recognize. And they will destroy everything. The Muslims will destroy it. Path forward, rebuilding together. Reindustrialize economics and secure supply chains. Advance in new frontiers like AI, space, automation, and critical materials. Reform global institutions, UN, without dismantling them, noting their failures in Gaza, Ukraine, Iran, and Venezuela, resolved instead by the U.S. leadership. Reject managed decline for bold action, making alliances prouder and stronger. Conclusion, call for revigorated alliance. Rubio rejected headlines of transatlantic decline, affirming the U.S. and Europe's child and urging pride, receptacle, and action against complacency. He invoked past recoveries from 1945 ruins. I remember that. Positioning current challenges as a choice to avoid. The speech was about 20-25 minutes long, based on delivery estimates. Bleeding Renaissance with firm calls for change. In a Drew position, reactions its warm tone towards Europe while aligning with Trump-era policies. So basically, he was saying it in a nice way. Y'all are fixing to lose all your identity, all your heritage. Rubio specifically addressed illegal immigration, framed as mass migration, a broader control as critical threat to Western societies, integrating it into his broader critique of borderless world delusion. He portrayed it as not as a minor issue, but as a crisis undermining national sovereignty and civilization. Who built civilization? It wasn't the Middle Easterns. It was nobody on the continent of Africa. Guess what it was? It was the Western civilization has built what we see today, what Americans have, and what we've provided to the world. Christian civilization has provided to the world. If we want to see that just squashed away because a bunch of Muslims want Sharia law and they want to go back 200 years, we don't have anything. We don't have nothing. They'd go back to horse, buggy, and carrier or get a bunch of camels. As post-Cold War mistakes and in pursuit of a world without borders, we opened our doors to an unprecedented wave of mass migration that threatens the coercion of our societies, the continue of our culture, and the future of our people. He linked this to the dangerous delusion of a borderless world, arguing it ignored historical lessons and human nature. All at the same time, this was happening. Germany, Europe, Great Britain, America. All of these places getting flooded with third world low IQ invaders who are not going to assimilate. He linked this to the dangerous delusion of borderless world, arguing it ignored historical lessons and human nature. They are not going to assimilate. It's just not going to happen. It's not in their DNA. As a destabilizing crisis, mass migration isn't some fringe concern of a little consequence. It was and continues to be a crisis which is transforming and destabilizing societies all across the West. Rubio emphasized its role in broader societal transformation, calling for joint action to gain control of our nation's borders. So basically, I guess he's saying, we'll help you get rid of these people, maybe. I mean, I had a thought of several months ago. I was like, wow, what if we send in our military and help them get these people out? Round them up, get them out, and save Europe. Defense of border control and sovereignty, controlling who and how many people enter our countries. This is not an expression of xenophobia. It's not hate. It is a fundamental act of national sovereignty. And the failure to do this is not just an abdication of one of our most basic duties owed to our people. I can't even read. It is an urgent threat to the fabric of our societies and the survival of our civilization itself. That right there is profound in the civilization in itself. Again, you need intelligent people for infrastructure, for innovation, for all of this. And where are you getting it? Where are you getting it? America's average IQ is 100 and above. Middle Eastern countries, countries in Africa, they're all like 80 down. 80 down. It's not even in their DNA. They can't do it. And we're just importing these people? This was a direct rebuttal to the critics, positioning broader security as essential for culture continuing and a national duty, not prejudice. Yes, it's a national duty to preserve our heritage, to preserve our people. Rubio didn't dive into specific U.S.-European policies, no mentions of walls, deportations, or statistics. He didn't have to. I could read between the lines. But tied it to thematically to reassert control over economics, defense, and destiny. It aligned with his call for Europe to join the U.S. in prioritizing national interests over globalist ideas. We don't want the globe telling us so. I don't know. Either Biden and Obama got all together with all these other heads of places and all across the world, and they decided, yeah, let's do this. Let's do that. Let's import all of these low IQ third world. Let's just bombard them. Just bombard them. And that's basically what they did. What do we have here? Migration and the 2030 Agenda. There it is. The guide for practitioners, IOM, UN migration. Go Google this. This is John B. Wells on X. He says he has just read the entire migration and the 2030 Agenda. A guide for practitioners, and if you strip out all the humanitarian and the climate change and the progress for humanity and language, here's what it boils down to. I consulted Grok, so this ain't BS. This is legit. They want a managed global population with no stubborn, rooted majorities. No strong old world identities. So what does that mean? No old world identity. So you stop teaching these kids for decades. Don't even teach them the history. They don't learn the rich history of how we were founded, how all this happened. Because boy, it stirs something up in you when you hear stories like how the national anthem was created. The guy that wrote the song was on one of the British ships. He was trying to talk some peace. That whole British fleet was in 18-something. Oh, because they were attacking us again. And one of the commanders of the ship, British commander's like, yeah, we're going to bombard you. We're going to make that flag hit the ground. Guess what? And as they looked, as the bombs were bursting in air, and guess what? The flag was still there. And how was that flag still there? And they are getting hammered. They're getting hammered. Somebody'd run over and hold that flag up. Hold that flag up. And then they die. Somebody else would come, hold that flag up, and they die. I mean, there were several people who died. And that flag was jacked up. Jacked up. They were getting hammered by one of the most powerful Navy fleets on the planet. But our flag didn't fall. Because you had men risk their lives just so the flag wouldn't touch the ground. Boy, I get chills thinking about it. They're not teaching those kids that. So guess what? No strong old world identities. No independent power centers. So they suppress Western fertility through pharmaca, food, and water contamination. Psychological warfare and propaganda. Boy, have we been seeing that. What is the psychological warfare and propaganda? Invest in our kids, not teaching them history. They don't have no identity. So what are they going to latch to? They're going to latch to the propaganda that they're giving them. We just saw a video of that creepy guy dressed with some crazy ass makeup trying to say, hey, don't pass this bill because we want to get near your kids. We still want to get near your kids. Psychological warfare and propaganda. Well, we need to do a better job with our own propaganda, with good propaganda, like the story I just told you about the learning the song. Just not only the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, but the Star Spangled Banner. Then present the resulting demographic collapse as a neutral problem and solve it. With a permanent mass migration that keeps the debt economy running, dilutes historic white Christian population, breaks societal coercion, and justifies a thick web of surveillance, speech, control. Surveillance, speech, control. Where am I at? Right here. Surveillance, speech, control. I'm going to make sure I keep my place. Guys, right now, as we speak in China, there's a couple of cities that they're doing testing on, where they got CCTVs everywhere. Cameras, CCTV cameras, whatever you want to call it. Closed, like they're filming everybody walking. And they gave all the people in the city something like some credits. We'll call it credits. Whatever they call it, whatever. You can go look it up. So guess what? So let's say the government sees you doing something they don't think is healthy or you shouldn't be doing. They take your credits away. Don't believe me? Go check. I think all this is being done for trial runs to see how complacent these people are going to be. Is this going to be implemented on us? And we know they got CCTV everywhere in Europe. I don't even know what's going on over there. You know, Rubio's trying to tell them, hey, y'all got to get back to your roots. You've got to save your civilization. You've got to save your culture, your heritage. You've got to save it. NGO management and UN-style governance over human bodies, borders, labor, and money until most people are interchangeable, tractable units in a post-national, post-Christian, post-ethnic grid. We completely lose our identity. We completely lose everything. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound like Revelation stuff? That this is what they want? No identity, just a world identity of something they're just going to tell us? They do not just bulldoze everyone because they still need a large, frightened, semi-healthy herd to work, consume, or validate their status. They do not have absolute unified power, open slaughtered wrist, revolt, and delegitimize the system. And the kind of people who build this agricultural think in terms of slow, deniability, logistic pressure, and manufactured consent. So poison comes as medicine, control comes as care, demographic placement comes as compassion. And they keep tightening the cage while pretending nothing fundamental is happening. So what are they doing here? Replace us demographically as compassion? And that's what we've been seeing. They're teaching our kids right now. You see them out in the streets protesting, high school kids, middle school kids, elementary kids. Good God, I seen a kindergarten class. They were teaching them, but they couldn't take them outside because it was too cold. We have to put a stop to this. They're telling them that ICE is murdering people and ripping families apart. So they're trying to make them feel like, oh, this is bad. Well, this is bad. We got to get rid of these people. They're not telling them all the thousands of people, thousands upon thousands that have been murdered by these third world, low IQ monsters that we've allowed into this country. Here's a little bit of history that's not being taught in the curriculum for European.
You've been lied to. They told you a story about Britain. Colonizers, slavers, oppressors. Here's what they didn't tell you. Your ancestors, the factory workers, the farm laborers, the shopkeepers, the miners, they didn't own slaves. They couldn't afford passage across the channel, let alone a plantation in Jamaica. They worked 14-hour days and died young and poor. But when they finally got a voice, they used it, not for themselves, to end injustice. More people signed petitions against slavery than could vote. Working families gave up sugar, their one small luxury, because they refused to taste cruelty. The powerful owned slaves. The people ended slavery. The powerful exploited children. The people stopped them. The powerful denied the vote. The people took it. Teenage girls with rotting jaws walked out of factories and won. 12 jurors chose prison over convicting an innocent man. But Britain didn't just end slavery here. They ended it everywhere. They paid foreign rulers to stop. When they broke their word, Britain came back. Again and again, they sent warships to patrol Africa for 60 years. 17,000 sailors died, not for Britain, for strangers they'd never meet. They bombarded Algiers and freed 1 million Europeans. They paid 40% of the national budget, a debt you and your parents were still paying off in 2015.
Wow.
Not kings, not generals, not aristocrats. Working people, your ancestors. This is proud of us, a place to be proud and learn from other working class people. It's time for us to tell our own stories again. Be part of us. Be proud of us.
Wow. Wow. So what do you get told? What do you hear a lot is that what? White people were just oppressors and all of that. Look what Britain did. Look what they did. They helped wipe out slavery. Now it took us a little longer to come in America, but we weren't being able to go and purchase them anymore because they were stopping people. They were stopping people on the high seas of doing that. But nope, they're not teaching none of that. You know, not just in Britain, but this child labor was happening here too, and that's why I've said in past shows that I'm kind of against some unions, but when unions started out, it was to help the people, the factories, better wages, get rid of child labor, this kind of stuff. Children as young as 5 worked in British factories 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. Some were chained to the machines so they couldn't run away. They called them apprentices. Mill owners took orphans from workhouses by the cartload. Nobody stopped them for decades. Then one man decided to fight. Lord Shaftesbury was an aristocrat. He had nothing to gain. He visited the factories himself, the coal mines, the textile mills. He saw children crawling under moving machinery. Some lost fingers, some lost limbs, some lost their lives. He brought it to Parliament. They laughed at him. Factory owners said children wanted to work. That regulation would destroy the economy. Now, what are they telling us today? That if we get rid of all the illegals, then who's going to do the work? How many times have y'all heard that? He kept going year after year. In 1833, no child under 9 in mills. 1842, no women and children underground. 1847, 10 hours maximum. The factory owners said it would ruin Britain. And guess what? It didn't. Britain became the wealthiest nation on the planet. And children went to school instead of factories. If you think this should be taught in schools, help us reach. And this is... it's the same with our it should be the same with us. We should be teaching how we've overcome. Teach them about Lincoln. Teach them about the Civil War. Teach them about the Revolutionary War. Tell them about the Pilgrims, what they had to go through. Man, you would die from drinking the water. You were lucky if you made it to 13. You were lucky if you made it to 30.
Children as young as 5 worked in British factories, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. Some were chained to the machines, so they couldn't run away. They called them apprentices. Mill owners took orphans from workhouses by the cartload. Nobody stopped them. For a decade. Then one man decided to fight. Lord Shaftesbury was an aristocrat. He had nothing to gain from this fight. He visited the factories himself, the coal mines, the textile mills. He saw children beneath the machines collecting cotton waste. Some lost fingers, some lost limbs, and some even lost their lives. Shaftesbury brought it to Parliament. They laughed at him. Factory owners said children wanted to work, that regulation would destroy the economy. He kept going. Year after year, 1833, no child under 9 in textile mills. 1842, no women or children underground in mines. 1847, no more than 10 hours a day for women and children. Each one fought for, each one resisted, each one passed. Factory owners said it would ruin Britain. It didn't. Britain became the wealthiest nation on earth, and children went to school instead of factories. Every workplace protection you have today started here. All because one man looked at what was happening to children and said, "This has to stop." Become the reason stories like this are still alive. Support our mission at proudofus.co.uk/support. Be part of us. Be proud of us.
And we need to be proud of America. We need to be proud of America. We have to teach kids about our heritage, about our rich history, our rich culture. It will give you chills. The people who fought and died for us, where we are today. It's amazing. It is just absolutely incredible. Our rich history, American history. And Britain needs to embrace their history as well. And we're like Rubio said, we are connected with them. I have here somebody, I was just reading this, and this person said, My great grandfather came to the U.S. from England in 1901. Mine's from the North. I appreciate this history stories because British history is also my family history. Actually, all of it is all of our history. We have ties to them, just like Rubio was saying. We are intertwined with them, with our values. We have more in common with them than we do with the always the same map. All those countries in Africa. We don't have nothing in common with them. We don't have nothing in common with the people from the Middle East. But we have everything in common with them. And we need to unite with them. And we need to make the Western civilization great again. Northern miners, your great-grandfather would have lived through the tail end of everything Stounsbury fought for. Glad it still reaches the family. What's tragic about all this horrific history is the people mouthing off think our amazing country is the way it is because it just is. They know nothing of the people who changed it and nothing of the horrors of the working class lived beyond the 1900s. It is so true. And that's the same thing here in America. That is the same thing here in America. And there you have it. There you go. I thought this was great. A great story, something great to end on. I could have pulled up some American history, but look, our roots come from there. That's the motherland. And that's the whole point. I think tying it into Rubio's message that he gave, which I just thought was amazing. If y'all haven't seen it, go watch it. And look at the faces of the people in the audience. They're all white and they all look stoic. I mean, they clapped a few times. There was no big smiles. There was no getting up going, yes, we need our heritage back. We need our culture back. We need to embrace our heritage and pass this on to our children. No, I could not read that on any of their faces. Y'all could go look. But to me, I was like, whoa. He's basically telling them, y'all need to get it together because you're not going to be a country anymore. And we want to work with you. We want to help you. But you're not going to do it with all this massive immigration and them trying to change the laws and have Sharia law because they're doing it over there, guys. Anyway, there you have it. Remember, the learning never stops. Like and subscribe to the channel and have a wonderful day.